sure that we're sorry, it's just not, I'm just double checking it and it's just not showing that we're live just yet. So
It says on my computer.
okay, yeah, we're good to go now.
Okay, it says we're live and we're recording. So, all right, we'll call the meeting to order of the November 16th. It's a date today, Jeff. 17th economic development meeting. Confirmation of the agenda. Did everybody look at it? We'll have a motion to and a seconder to Nathan to make a motion, seconded by Christina. All in favor? On we go. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Is everybody's buying a piece of property that we're selling and you think you're at fault here, you be careful. You can disclose it at any time. The September 15th, did everybody have a chance to read the minutes? Hopefully you did. I guess I need a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Somebody? There's only 4 yeses. Cora Lee, seconded by Paul. All in favor? Carried. So is there any business from that September 15th meeting that we're not going to touch on tonight, probably? Seeing none, we get to go right into reports. Now, who's going first? Justin? Justin Diaz. And we spelled his name right. Thank God. All right, Justin, take it away.
Excellent. So yeah, just a couple of items I wanted to bring to the community's attention this evening. So we do have an event going on December 7th, which is our Discover More Resilience Business Open House. I think I mentioned this at the last meeting I was at. So really what this is a drop-in opportunity for businesses we're actually hosting at the near neck of the woods of the Mitchell Golf Club on December the 7th from two slots there, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. to make available to all businesses wanting to attend. Our plan is to have resources available for the business community. So just some information about, we've met virtually for the last 20 months and share resources that way, but this is just an opportunity for businesses to stop in, pick up some physical resources from our team. We're going to be screening our Perth County Resilience video, so our debuting a video about the stories of business resilience over the course of the pandemic, as well as a chance for folks to have a safe and small mingling session there and have some refreshments and be on their way. So again, December the 7th, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Mitchell Golf Club. Any business in Perth County is welcome to attend. So please do mark your calendars and plan to attend. And I know there's some information went out via email, but I'll make sure it also gets circulated with this group as well, so you can share with your colleagues. I guess just a couple other small things to mention of note. We did host our first mentor meetup session last night. I had a number of good youth from the community who were kind of sharing their stories, and we made that webinar available. It is now being recorded, or was recorded, and will be available on our website soon. So any other young folks who are interested about kind of what they're to see and do in Perth County can view the recording and find out firsthand from some young folks about why they chose to come back to Perth County. Two items related to digital transformation. So our digital service squad continues to be active. So if there are businesses who are looking to implement any kind of digital change in their business, whether it be updates to their website, implementing social media, adding e-commerce, any of the above, please do reach out to our digital service squad coordinator, Eileen. She can help businesses one-on-one getting those things set up and just provide a sounding board for businesses looking to continue to implement digital. In addition to that, through Digital Main Street, there are $2,500 grants available to businesses for digital transformation. So that is $2,500 grant to implement any of those things I mentioned, updating websites, even paying for marketing support or expertise to help your business go digital. So I'll share the information with this group after a link to the website where you can find out more information. But those applications are being accepted only for a couple more weeks now. So November 30th is the deadline. So do encourage you to apply if you're interested, share with your community, and reach out if you need any more information about that. What else did I want to chat about? I guess another thing I wanted to mention is we do have some local information kits available for businesses. So this is packages you can give to new employees or perhaps commuting employees at businesses who are kind of coming from outside the region. We know that sometimes if you're a commuting employee, you might come work your shift, get back in your car and drive back to where you came from. So you may not know kind of what else is there available in Perth County. You may not know what there is to see and do. You may not know what's available for your family if you want to perhaps move here. So these kits are really about showcasing to those folks who are maybe, like I said, come in, work their shift and go home, help them expose them to what else there is available in Perth County. So we have those available to any business who wants to make those available to their new employees or commuter employees. Just again, let us know. We can make some packages available. Want to briefly just chat about our Discover More Adventures tourism program. So this is our kind of marquee tourism program for 2021, which was all about working with businesses to develop saleable experiences, really incorporating experiences. We know, experiential tourism is really a booming or growing trend. So we've supported a number of businesses, including some in West Perth, to develop those experiences, and look forward to launching more over the next couple of weeks. I guess a thank you to all the businesses who answered a phone call if they did receive one from our consultant team doing our telephone survey. Those results are being collated and should have something to our county council and then out to the broader community at the next council meeting or I should say the first meeting in December of Perth County Council. And then lastly, just yesterday was a milestone day for our Perth County Connect transit system. It celebrated its 1-year anniversary. To date, the service has serviced over 3,100 rides across the multiple routes. So really a milestone, year in service. I know Maggie Martin, our transportation coordinator, shared across social media, a celebration of that 1-year anniversary, and a number of stories about people who have used the service over the past year to access work, to stay connected with family, to access community supports. So really some great stories about how the service has made a difference over the last year, and really, seen a positive growth trend over the last little while, and hopefully we continue to keep that going. So Maggie, as mentioned, is always available to provide information to this group, to any businesses who are interested in finding out how their employees might be able to access the service. And please do reach out if you need any more information about PC Connect. We're happy to share that. So that's my brief update on what's going on. And like I mentioned, I'll send this to Kristen to circulate to all the committee members with all the links to all the kind of programs and events that I touched on.
Thank you, Justin. Does anybody have any questions for Justin? Paul?
Thanks, Doug. So Justin, just to remind me, what's the status then of the Connects program as far as funding goes? I know we've celebrated a year. What additional funding do we have? How long is it going to last? I know it really came at a tough time. Ridership, I'm sure, is on the increase now that there's more mobility of people needing to get places, less things locked down with COVID and that. So I expect it's going to continue to go. Just wondering, what's the runway on funding?
Yeah, so the province did announce that there was that the Perth County did receive a enough funding to run the service for for around an additional 2 years. So it may not. It's all going to be dependent on ridership. If there's enough ridership to sustain the project over the additional 2 years into 2025, then that'll be the case. Again, it's all going to depend on whether there's enough ridership to help keep that viable for the full 2 years. It may or may not be. I think that was again, it's going to be. We haven't had any period of really normal operation yet. We're still operating at reduced capacity, and so we unfortunately haven't had an opportunity to run the service at its full potential yet. So still lots of question marks about what overall demand is, and marketing. I know Maggie's been quite active in the last little while in terms of marketing and outreach to businesses and community partners. So I think we're going to see that ridership trend continue to trend in the right direction.
Do you know offhand, Justin, what kind of number we have to get to make it sustainable?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have.
That's fine. I was just
that in front of me. Yeah, so I'm sure Maggie. I'm not sure when the last time she was at West Perth Council, but if that's something this committee is interested, I'm sure we can, arrange for her to give a quick update to this committee if that's of interest.
I was just curious to know whether, what was the chances of it continuing, based on ridership and what threshold we were looking for. So perfect. Thank you so much.
Someday, Paul, you and I will be able to get on it and go for a ride, because that's my dream, is to go and ride it one day, right? But they won't let that happen. Just to ride the whole loop, because both loops leave Mitchell. One goes north, comes around, and one goes east and comes around. So we're actually, I believe, Justin, we're the only spot that hits both routes.
Sorry, both routes do originate out of Stratford. So but yeah, in terms of Mitchell is in a good spot in terms of picking up the north Route A and Route B.
Yep, that's perfect. Thank you very much, Justin. Who's up next, Jeff? I heard you and Kristen talking.
Yeah, so I'll start, and I'm going to do a presentation right now just on the municipal updates presentation, and then I'm going to turn it over. I want to be fairly quick so we can get you to the next agenda item, which is the conversation about the economic development newsletter. And actually, Kristen's going to make a presentation for that, and I have a bit of a presentation as well. So just on municipal updates first. It's hard to follow the county. They always have so many good things going on, but I've got want to just report that we twice a year have our development project review meeting, where we get together with our municipal engineer and our staff involved in planning applications, and we do triage on the application status updates and confirm where we're going. And we had that meeting in middle October, and I want to report to this committee that we had a map last year. We showed all the development projects, and that map is being significantly changed as we have new applications that are in either pre-consultation or in application received, but just about ready to be circulated stage. I expect we'll see a couple of these get circulated before we do the newsletter, and there'll be some updates to that map for the newsletter. But it's very exciting, not only the number of units that we have being proposed for development in Mitchell. Our growth center is the main area, obviously, and that's where we're focusing serviced urban growth. So not only the number of units, but also there's a real improvement in the diversity of units. So semis, quads, row townhouses, and there's one application that we're doing pre-submission on right now that's actually got an apartment building. And if there's anything our community could use more than anything, I think at this point in time, would be an apartment building. And in fact, if you could do it, if you could talk to somebody who's interested in investing, an apartment building that would only allow people that are sort of younger and in our community, because that's the gap. I think that's the struggle for young people to find a place to go to. And I know I've spoken to this committee in the past that the big concern is that we get our kids to the age where they want out of the house but they don't want to leave the community. And if we have nowhere for them to go, they end up leaving the community. There's jobs here, so we got that part of the equation. But if they have to leave the community, there's a real great chance they won't come back. And so having housing, that entry level, and probably with the way the housing market, entry level rental to allow them to build a down payment, and then eventually a housing market that has more attainable choices, and rows and townhouses are the more attainable choices that this market doesn't present a lot of. So I want to say that our development community is responding to that. Our pre-consultations encourage it, and we have applications coming that are proposing it. And on that, and it takes time to get those applications to market, and I do worry about what we lose or whom we lose in the meantime, but it is what it is. I do want to mention that some good news that we got today, and I sent an email to council this evening on this just before we came into this meeting. The AVCO project, which is proposed to be apartments for seniors. The proposal was for 39 units. It's been in litigation at the Ontario Land Tribunal. The applicant in this case has suffered through a number of changes in provincial policy, which have been very serious setbacks, and I think very disappointing in terms of the way provincial legislation has worked, but it is what it is. The parties had a meeting and started meeting back in October and came to a settlement. The settlement was filed with the tribunal member on Wednesday, November the 3rd. The tribunal issued their decision. I believe it's dated today. If it's not today, it's dated yesterday. The tribunal issued their decision and they accepted the settlement. The zoning becomes effective immediately. It's for 41 apartments in a single building that is 3 stories. That met the zoning, and there was some compromises made in terms of setbacks and landscaping that were made by the applicant, which satisfied the appellant, and that compromise was presented and has been accepted. This is great news for the community, and I know I've got a few people who regularly speak to me about their desire to get out of their big house and get to apartment living as a transition and a choice for them. They feel that they can manage an apartment, but not their big house. And it's interesting because the one that I spoke to last week made it very clear to me that she's really interested in seeing her house sold to a young family that could move to our community, and feels that she's taking up a lot of space that she doesn't need to be taking up. And it's really the position we're in. This is an example of how housing needs in our community can have a ripple effect back through our community. And this is a housing need that we have. So I'm really happy to report that great news. I have a couple of other updates I want to just sort of blow by here. You will have noticed if you've been in town or tried to get to Tim Hortons that we're working on the Ontario Road Resurfacing project. It's not ideal that a project like that is this close to the end of the asphalt season. It's just the way the construction industry is. I think Mike Kramer is more nervous than any of us about this project being able to get finished now that we've shaved the asphalt and we want to get it back down. But we've got a great contractor, and I believe you'll see asphalt being placed on Monday. That's a little later than asphalt normally gets placed, not because of and it's not necessarily a problem, because if conditions are right, they'll place it. It's just usually the asphalt plants close at November 15th, and either it's global warming or it's busier construction activity, but the asphalt plants are staying open longer this year. I want to mention, and I've given this update before, but I have to say it again. We've been having fantastic uptake on our recreation programs. When we put our program out, we get good response. There's a real desire in this community for residents to participate in recreation. That's a direct response to our Recreation and Leisure Services Master Plan that identified that need in 2016. It's very critically a part of a strategy to retain youth and to support young families. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that our recreation staff have very effectively moved into that space, provided programming that's been successful. And I think it's successful to the point that it's really forcing us to think about other things we can do for programming to extend it. And I suspect a bit of this is COVID, but I also think it's a demonstration and a good sign that our community is relatively young. We still have a good age profile in our community as far as age distribution of our residents and children, and providing those recreational services is a way to keep people here and attract people here. And I think that's a big change for municipalities, especially West Perth in the last 10 years. We are doing some work on our trails and parks master plan, which will be done in 2022. And we will be updating our recreation and leisure services master plan in 2023. And I can't say enough about the quality of that report. It's been a tremendous blueprint to help our municipality move more heavily into the recreational space. The quality of the report has been bang on as far as identifying what we need. We do it, we deliver it, and the uptake is there to use it, which is a sign of good survey data. And I think it's just a demonstration that there's pent up need. So I anticipate we'll continue to develop the recreation program as a great community asset. So really happy to report that we're having lots of success there. And finally, I just want to advise the committee that we're going into the budget cycle. And our budget cycle begins in earnest next Monday when we present to council the corporate strategic plan for our 2022 priorities. And we will then move into presenting to council our capital requests for 2022 and request council pre-budget approval for capital. And I can say to this committee that our capital requests are very much in line with previous years. This municipality has done a great job through COVID of maintaining a consistent capital program, which I think has served us well in terms of pricing and staying on top of our capital. We anticipate we'll spend about the same amount of money in capital in 2022, but also that capital spend will have approximately the same impact on the levy request. And what that means to a business community is that I think you'll see a pretty stable taxation year for us in 2022 again. We did take our OMPF cuts are getting smaller, so the amount of the cut this year is about 90,000. We've been declining. Our highest cut was 660,000 one year, so it's down to 90,000 less provincial funding we get this year than we got last year. That's around 1% of taxes for us. So going into our budget, if all things stayed the same, we'd be about 1%. And we do know that insurance is going to hurt again. Widespread across the province, municipalities are reporting that insurance rates are up, 20 and 30 and 40%. Municipalities have had claims, have seen insurance rates double. We haven't been in that position. I figure insurance will be responsible for a 0.5% budget increase on its own. So that's like $45,000 or $40,000 increase in insurance year over year. That's just the way the market is for insurance. It's just the nature of the municipal business. Municipalities are lobbying to try to look at some options for insurance around factors such as joint and several liability, which may help to cap the way we're impacted by insurance increases. But the current market is just doesn't have the same competition in it, and the rates are going higher. And perhaps we had years of good rates, and now it's catching up to us. So those are factors that we need to be insured. So we feel a bit vulnerable, and I hope there's an end to it. But that it is what it is. So that is the update on the budget, and that's the end of the general updates I have for you. I'd be happy to take any questions if the members have any.
Does anybody have any questions for Jeff? If not, we'll go right into.
Not a question, but just a comment on the housing situation. So I'm certainly happy to hear that. We've struggled to find accommodation for co-op students this year. We typically have a couple, and we've prefer local applicants if we can, but if there aren't any, we need to take people from out of town, and that's precluded some of them from joining us because they've looked and can't find housing. So that's good news if there's something coming.
And can I ask, Corley, and I guess I'm going to ask this at the expense of, you might say, sure, get busy and do something. But, you know, we are probably going to be in this gap, because even if we had an application arrive tomorrow and that had apartments in it, you know, with the way the supply chain is and the way the approval processes are, we're a year and a half or 2 years from having an apartment building in the ground. And, you know, does the community need to look at alternatives for housing for people that want short-term stays? Are there people in the community that would take in tenants? Does the municipality have should the municipality be leading in sort of trying to create awareness that businesses could sort of sign up somewhere and tenants could sign up, and you could create some kind of an opportunity for conversations to be had? Have you thought about that, or am I?
I think that would be great. I mean, I know the applicants we had, I mean, they looked on, you know, Kijiji, the Facebook groups, Airbnb. You know, I made a couple of inquiries of people I knew that had units, and there just is nothing there, and a lot of effort to try and find it. Now, maybe there's people that have space and don't even know that option exists. That's the other side of it. So I think definitely if the municipality can take a role in putting those people together, that's great.
Yeah, and I think, you know, making the connections is one thing. I think running the connections is probably more than we'd want to get into. I think you want the market to take over, but the awareness that the need is there, perhaps, is where the municipality has a role. And I may follow up with Justin on that and the county folks, just in terms of if they have any ideas, and maybe we need to advertise in the paper. Maybe it's as simple as that, or maybe we need to promote it on social media, and we run a little social media campaign. It can't hurt. And and it's not only BDO, I'm hearing it from others as well. And I worry about what happens until we can get the solution in the ground.
Agree.
Has the municipality thought about the tiny home movement? I know that there are some people in the KW area that have been building tiny homes in their backyards, not as like a permanent solution to housing, but as like a couple of year project. Like there's plenty of shipping container things, you know, even if it was just like you've got an extra big backyard, let's put a space there. Like obviously
we have that
cooperation.
passed at the county level. Anybody can put a secondary in their backyard if they so choose. When did that start, Jeff?
Yeah, I think it came in as an as of right requirement of the Planning Act about a year ago. Yeah,
it's there if somebody chose to. Justin pop back on there. He'll have a better idea. If somebody chose to do that, I think they would.
People know. I didn't even know that was allowed, especially considering like how far away you have to be from like the edge of your yard typically for stuff like that.
Justin, you got any specs? You'd still have to only be 4 feet away, 5 feet away, the same as your own thing.
So I'm not sure with the planning piece. I was going to speak to the fact that we did when we had a housing forum, economic development and tourism at the county level. We had a forum in June, and we had a speaker out of Windsor who had done just that, and basically had implemented a tiny house in her property in Windsor, and we had brought her to this forum to really talk about her experience, as a non-developer, kind of developing her own tiny house in her own laneway. So that was a really informative experience, and I. Unfortunately, we didn't record that session. I wish we had. In hindsight, I think we probably just missed the boat on that. But I can try to see if I can find some information from her about kind of her process, and maybe that's something that she kind of. I know she now does work with clients who are looking to do the same thing, because from her experience, she kind of became an expert, and I know she's even studying it now at University of Toronto as a PhD student about alternative dwelling units. So I can see if I can dig up some more information from her experience, and maybe that's something that we can share, maybe kind of an informal how-to guide, or she can, connect to other people who are interested.
We could even get Susanna. That's our planner too. Maybe we have a January meeting, Jeff?
Yeah, we're going to talk to you later about a potential speaker for an additional speaker for our virtual meeting, which we'd like to hold in February.
Oh, I was just thinking she could propose to the committee, and I got to make sure I'm not wrong on that. That you can have a secondary. You could rent a room out. I can't believe how many people in this town rent a room out to a international student, but you never hear about them wanting to rent it out to an RNA or a person from like how many international students do we have here? Probably 10 or 12 at the high school.
Right, but oftentimes,
and they all live here in Mitchell.
That's how, like, I think with the RNA situation, especially because of COVID, there's like a lot more concerns,
right,
than a kid just going to the high school.
Yeah, but a co-op student for Coralie, there is that channel somehow through the education system already, and maybe that's something we could fall on to find out. Maybe there's other people who would take us, like Coralie's talking about a student, an accounting student, I'm assuming. So it'd be a 19 or 20-year-old who maybe only lives here 5 days a week and then goes home on the weekend. You know, I could try to talk my wife into it, but she's adamant, no, we have 5 bedrooms and 1 person or 2 people. But we had a girl from Alberta stay in our basement this week. But I think maybe we could, and Christina, I'll maybe see if I can get you some information on that backyard stuff. But maybe Susanna could, even 5 minutes just to, or I can check on Jeff and I can check on the planning zoning for it, but yeah. I'm sure we passed that to have it.
So I think what we'll do is a report back to the committee is, in the meantime, I'm not going to hold back on, if we come up with some low-hanging fruit that we think is a good idea, we're not going to bring it back to the committee and ask the committee to approve it before we start to do it. I think we start, if it's social media or sort of raising awareness about, businesses, and we can start that. I'll brainstorm a bit about that with Justin and Justin's team. And we will look at whether we can get an update from Susanna on the tiny homes movement is one thing. That the whole, the idea of granny suites, which is a variation on tiny homes, and second units in existing homes as of right are permitted. You're going, and I know the pushback's going to be immediately, well, where are all these people going to park? And, there's too many cars in our roads. It's like, the density here is nothing compared in relative terms to other areas. And we're going to have to be innovative. Maybe with the price of housing, this innovation is going to be a long-term innovation, not a short-term innovation. So I think the conversation has to start. So we'll take that up and report back.
Okay, so that was some extra stuff. Jeff, you or Kristen?
Yeah, so we can move on to this next agenda item, Chair Wright. And the next agenda item we're going to talk about is our planning for the next Economic Development Committee newsletter and virtual meeting. If you reviewed the minutes, and you passed them, so hopefully you all did, it was a bit of a reminder of the conversation for the last meeting. I'll just highlight that the themes that arose and the direction that we were given as staff was to plan for a newsletter again, plan to issue that newsletter a little later, so probably February is instead of January, or issue it in January, but have the virtual meeting in February. The theme, the concept being that we get a little further away from the Christmas break and perhaps look at different ways to get the newsletter out to the community. So we've got proposals for you that we're going to run through. We're going to start by having Kristen talk about the options that she's got for distribution. And I want to just, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about content for the letter, but I'm going to preempt Kristen's conversation a little bit by just saying that the newsletter last year was 12 pages. I've got it ready if we want to bring it up and look at it anytime. I think we can show it on the screen. We've looked at the prospects of, could it be less? We don't think it effectively could be reduced much. You could reduce it a page or two, but because of the format, it has to be in 4-page sort of increments. So it's either going to be a 4-pager, an 8-pager, or a 12-pager, because it's an 11 by 17 sheet of paper folded in half, which gives you 4 page surfaces. And so we feel that the 12-page format is on. We'll show you some pricing, and at the end of this, if we come back and say, no, let's get it down to 8 and squeeze it more, we can do that. But let's let Kristen share her screen. And Kristen's done a lot of work on this last couple of weeks, so I want her to present it. So we can see that screen, Kristen. You just have to get you to unmute and you're good to go.
Sorry, I was talking, asking if you could see my screen, and I was muted.
We could see the screen, but we couldn't hear your voice.
Okay, so let's try this again. Okay, so I have here just a kind of a reminder of what we did last year. So again, like Jeff,
excuse me, miss, you're not showing us. If we get one or the other, we either get to see you or we get to, let's just split the screen again and see, or do you have to do it, Jeff?
No, I've got it.
There we go.
It shared. Yep, there you go. There it's shared. Okay. So
and now we can hear you. Perfect.
Okay, so you can see me. The problem is, anyway, here we are. Okay, so I've kind of an overview of what we did last year. As Jeff said, we did a 12-page newsletter in a book format. Last year, we printed 400 copies. We mailed approximately 262 businesses. We mailed them to Westport Council, the Economic Development Committee members, and then we mailed them to Randy Pettypiece, John Nader, I think a few others. We also emailed a copy to everyone who received the paper copy, and in that we included information on the January meeting, information how to register, that sort of thing, just to help promote and to try and get it into people's hands a little sooner. It was mailed out in early January last year, just after the Christmas holidays, and the event was January 20th. We also promoted that on our website and social media. Just a look at costs from last year. The graphic design of the newsletter was just over $1,000. These prices are before taxes. We printed 400 newsletters on a paper called 100-pound text. Don't know much about that, but it was a cardstock type paper. We did have the mailing costs. It cost $1.92 per stamp, and I think we mailed out about 300 of them. And then I know we had some that we handed out in the office, some Doug took, etc. But about 300. And then we had additional costs which we haven't captured here, but all of the large size envelopes, the labels, some of the newsletters that we sent out, we included letters, etc. So that's a bit of a snapshot on the pricing there. This year we looked into 3 different distribution options. So we looked at the Mitchell Advocate, the Stratford Marketplace, and a tool called the Canada Post Precision Targeter. The Mitchell Advocate, as you know, is a paid subscription newspaper. It's delivered weekly. The full circulation of the Mitchell Advocate is 1,600 homes, but not all of those recipients live in West Perth. I didn't actually get the final number of how many are in West Perth, because in speaking with the Mitchell Advocate, kind of determined it's not really the best option because it doesn't reach as many people. If the committee wanted, we could certainly get the number of how many people of those 1,600 are in West Perth, but I didn't get that just yet. She said that it was going to take a few steps for her to figure that out, so we left that for now. What I did talk to her about was the Stratford Marketplace. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's a free distribution that goes to all homes in the area. It's got your flyers, your advertising, that sort of thing. It is weekly. They say it's delivered to all homes, but I actually have been in my home for over a year and wasn't getting it because the previous owner opted out. So Jeff was telling me about this and I didn't even know it existed because the previous homeowner had opted out. So I have it now, but to say that it's all homes is definitely not super accurate, because it's it's not. So in Mitchell, it goes to 734 homes, and then outside of Mitchell, it's just over 1,500 for a total of 2247 homes. The price for us to insert our newsletter into the Stratford marketplace is 5 cents a piece. That brings us to $112. Just something to note, we do have to ship it to Etobicoke to be distributed from there. So it has to be in Toronto the Friday prior, and of course there would be an additional shipping cost associated with that. The last tool that we looked at was the Canada Post Precision Targeter. It's a service offered through Canada Post, of course. You use interactive maps and demographic data to target customers with a direct mail. There is a discount offered because we are a government mailing, and then the price varies based on size and the weight. These are the types of things you'll get if you get a flyer and you're right in your post office box. You know, different companies and politicians use it, things like that. You have the ability to select or remove houses, apartments, businesses, farms, so you can kind of target it how you like. You can filter based on different demographics, whether it's age, gender, if there's children, that sort of thing. You can start by selecting a postal code. You can select the whole municipality, driving distance, radius, that sort of thing. So when I did it, I started with the municipality of West Perth. It did capture a few homes in the Stratford and St. Mary's area. This is just a screenshot, so you can go in and unselect certain areas. So for example, I've unselected Kirkton. They are just over 20 cents a piece. We would have to go with the oversized option because the other option was a 12 by 6 inch, which wouldn't be big enough. And then I did weigh our newsletter from last year, and it's a little bit overweight for kind of the standard. So when I did this and I selected West Perth, I got almost 4,000 homes to be delivered to, and the price of that was $819.59. So considerably more, higher reach than the other two previous options. And then again, you could filter out. So say you thought 4,000 is far too many to be delivering to, you could choose to not include the apartments or the houses, and you could use just farms and businesses. So it lets you choose from there, which is pretty neat. You do pay in advance, and then you just drop it off at the local Canada Post Office. There's no additional cost to ship it anywhere. I did confirm our other pricing. So the graphic designer has confirmed that her prices would be the same this year as last year. So for her design, layout, all that sort of thing, and then an electronic copy of the document for distribution online, it's again just over 1,000 plus HST. I also confirmed the printing costs. So because we've talked about doing these direct mail outs and that sort of thing, I got I did larger quantities. So I've quoted for 1,000 copies, 2,000, 3,000, and 4,000. Something to note when I talked with the printing company, I guess as an unfortunate result of COVID, supplies are scarce and they're having a hard time. And if you can believe it, it's hard to get paper. So he quoted me on the 100-pound text is the name of it. That's what we used last year. And then also an 80-pound text, which is just a slightly thinner piece of paper, but he said is still a good product. And he did say that availability is definitely dependent on when you order. Right now he's got availability, but that could change. I let him know we wouldn't be printing until the new year. So that's just something to keep in mind, that it's a tricky times, but those are the prices, and those don't include tax. So I've just kind of done a summary here. So the graphic design, the different options of the printing costs, and then the different delivery costs. And because there's so many different variables, of course, it's hard to break it down into one, budget number, but that's sort of a comparison there. Does anybody have any questions?
I can't see everybody because the screen's shared. I can only see, well, now I can see Justin. I can't see Christina or, oh, now I can. Now I can see everybody. Does anybody have any questions for Kristen or Jeff or me?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Just by terms of reputation, in my opinion, the marketplace would not be a good choice just because so many people get it and throw it away like right away. They do not consider it to be a super valuable source of local information or whatever. It's just the giant package of flyers that you use for whatever. So I know the Canada Post option is more expensive, but in my opinion, it sounds like it's more bang for our buck and will reach more of the right people with that.
So obviously I use Canada Post every month to send my flyer out to the targeted, I'm going to say almost exactly what she had clicked off there, except I do Kirkton because it's in my area. It is more triggered when a person has it in their hand. So my question to the committee would be, if you're sending it in the Canada Post, would you want the big, thick, glossy one, or an abbreviated, maybe only a 4-page one? If you're sending it to everybody, I love the book because I still got 1 or 2 that I can hand out or show the people the map in it, right? Like I pull that map out and show people we're building houses. What does the committee think? It's because last year we sent out 300 and we got 400 made. This year we're talking about maybe making 4,000 and sending it to everybody who lives in West Perth to give them what's going on in West Perth.
I would think an abbreviated version that has like a really obvious, for more in-depth information, get the full version on our website, kind of something might be a good in between.
Yes, Nathan?
Yeah, same. I would say a 4-page version that goes out to everybody, but a 12-page version available online.
Jeff, maybe this is a good time, sorry to interrupt, but to go through some of the content because we have discussed. Yeah.
Before you jump,
Okay, go ahead, Paul.
Paul?
I was just going to say, and I'd be interested to go back to Kristen's screen sharing and some of the things as it related to Canada Post. I don't think you're going to end up saving a whole lot of money between going from a 4-pager to a 12-pager. Yes, there's some savings, but proportionally, it's probably 20%, if I'm guessing. Your layout artist is going to have a flat fee. It's probably almost the same. There'll be a small difference, but I can't see that it's proportionally going to be 33% of a 12-pager to go to 4. That's just my guess. Because as you look at the difference between printing 1,000 versus 4,000, just around the printing piece, was all, and it's not my money when I say only, but it's $1,300. So I'm just saying it's not a big number to change to go from 1,000 to 4,000.
Kristen, could you roll up to the targeter where it had farm, residential, and I think a very important, so it's in your slide deck, if you could use that targeter page. And I'm going to come back to this group and say this is, and Paul, you're bang on. I think it's not going to be proportional in reduction. And we're going to tell you that we think it has to be 12 pages, but that's fine. The question really is along the left side there, where they talk about if we are going, we've always targeted business and agriculture. And I think, never really thought about the fact that we could hit the 269 businesses, which is actually a good, accurate reflection of the number of businesses we have that we track in our database.
Yeah, I think you did pretty good, Jeff.
I think it's bang on, right? And 716 farms, that's sort of 1,000. And do we want to get to residential? Maybe we're hitting the residential audience and we don't want to. Every taxpayer at Mitchell receives a tax bill, and we have a newsletter in it that is more general and says about dog tags and things like that. So if the target audience for this is agriculture and business, and perhaps we use the precision targeter and we go with 12 or 1,500 and we do some mail outs too, or deliveries beyond that. And that's where this committee, I think we're leaning on the committee for your advice.
I would ask that if you're looking at doing that in a 12-pager out to those 1,000, would you do a 1-page advertisement in the Advocate to point people to the 12-pager on the website?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to know who the 1,600 people are. Like most businesses, I don't imagine get the Advocate.
Yeah.
Some would, but you could do it a half-page ad in the Advocate to correspond with the week that the mailing goes out to the 1,000 people to say we're having a presentation on February, the whatever the day is.
Yeah.
And then do social media too, and you should be able to cover the whole thing.
Now, Jeff and Justin and I chatted yesterday, and one of them said something that I thought was really good. I can't remember which one of you said it. Sorry, guys, but somebody said if we just when you're talking about doing the 4-pager instead out to people, if we're spending the money to get it in people's hands, don't we want them to have something that's, once it's in their hands, it's worth having, right? So rather than doing a super short one, but one of them said that yesterday, and I thought that was a really good point.
Yeah. And I think so. The proposal that's on the table here is then, do we look at a half-page ad in the Advocate, where we put a highlight article or two in and then send people or summarize? We figure out a way to do that and use that article to send them traffic to the website to find it. We give it a tiny URL. And then people can go read it and sign up for the virtual session. And then we target mail using the Canada Post targeter to the 269 businesses and the 716 farms. And target mail at 12. So, you're going to have to print 1,000 of them or 1,100 of them. That budget's not terrible. We're saving money on mailing, significant money on mailing. We're going to spend a bit of money on the Advocate, which is kind of covering our bases. That's maybe a great solution.
But we still don't have to mail anything out. Canada Post will deliver at that low rate just to the farms and the businesses.
Yeah.
So I can't see Christina. I think she just, but Paul, this is our major thing for the year. Does that, we do the 12-pager then, and then we have some extras for your place and my place. And any other business that wants an extra one. There's threefold. There's the mail out, there's Canada Post, there's the ad in the Advocate, and then there's still social media, which of course we all know now is probably the cheapest, but it gets to the most people, unfortunately, good or bad.
Yeah, I would think that's a good compromise, especially if we do some targeted ads on Facebook to actually let people know about the thing. I can't say I've ever seen one from West Perth. Maybe you do them.
West Perth does do some ads on social media. There was just one on Facebook about not pickleball. They had an ad out for something just this week.
I think she needs to be like they're paid for ads, Doug.
Oh, like the where you pay $200 in it once you use it up.
Yeah, we can look into that.
He can be at the meeting. It's not a closed session, Christina. Get him involved.
He's sick. He might get germs on you all the way from here.
Paul, you were waving at me.
Well, I guess I just kind of, as we try to make a decision about how much money we want to spend on this, I guess I would just question what's the goal of the letter itself. So can somebody kind of give me a insight on what the overall goal, what's the goal? What's the KPI on this? What are we trying to achieve?
How do we measure success?
Yeah. Because I'm saying to myself, I can blanket the entire community for an additional $1,500. I've saved $600 of mailing costs over last year. I know it's a bigger budget. It's more expensive. If we did the whole thing, can somebody tell if we printed 4,000 and sent them to every 3,998 locations, what's that going to cost me? And I'm sure Kristen probably has it there somewhere. And then how does that compare to what we spent normally when we had the breakfast?
Yeah.
And what's our
Okay.
goal?
So these are good questions. I think the goal is, and I think you just have to remember the other ways we can communicate right into the person's kitchen table. The other one we've got is the newsletter that goes in our tax notice. It tends to be, our newsletter tends to be more broad services oriented and, you know, drive people traffic to the website, and just high level, you should, you know, check out what's going on by coming to the website. Because it's the newsletter, we, in the tax newsletter, it's 11 by 14, and we fit it in. So I think the target for this is to speak to our business audience. And I think the intent of it is to let them know what's going on with economic development activity in our community, and to share what's happening on the housing side, which is really meant for a business audience.
I would push back on that though, because I think that there are more people in town who might be interested in getting into business and are also dealing with housing concerns. And if you include them as part of the conversation before they're paying taxes on Main Street, then maybe they won't feel so left behind.
Right. So, and good call. And I think where we're at, and you know, if we did the business breakfast, our budget's around $2,500. You know, if we want to do this broader mailing, and I think we're not guessing here. We got that out last year, and according to Doug and according to many other people, anyone who got a chance to look at it said, wow. And so perhaps this is well spent money for the municipality, and to get into everyone's hands. You know, only a percentage of them is going to read it, but maybe we don't have to be separating out and we just spend the money.
Paul?
Sorry, I had to find my list. I agree. I would support the idea that we blanket the community. I just feel there's too much. There's always criticism about what the municipality does, what council does. We're building a new town hall. We're doing all these things that seem to be self-serving, and there's not enough awareness about all the good things that the community, that local government does. And
Hear, hear.
I believe that needs to resonate to all individuals that pay taxes in the municipality. To Christina's point, there are people that live here that might want to start a business and have no ideas about that the Heron Business Park even exists, as an example. So I think there's, you know, maybe for the additional small $1,500, I think we're better to blanket. That's my opinion.
So through that lens, may I suggest that we can't consider that, because I think debating it a bunch more is not going to get us a lot further until we talk about content. So I'm going to just run through content for a couple moments, and then I think we go back and revisit if there's consensus on it. So I'll share my screen, and hopefully I can do this with the precision that Kristen did. Share.
That felt like a jab, Jeff.
No, it was good. Yeah, it wasn't meant to be a jab. It was well done. Okay, good. So are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
And hear me? Okay, that is a jab. That was a jab, Kristen.
Yeah.
So just looking at content for a moment, I'm going to quickly run through last year's newsletter and just talk about how we would perhaps change the content. And again, you can, after we run through this, you might go, yeah, I think you can squeeze that down to 8, Jeff. And I'm open for that. So last year, the introductory page, the newsletter was online. If you want to grab it, if you can have a second screen and you want to grab it, that's where you would, you can't grab that, but we can put it up. There was a lead article on the first page, and the lead article was accompanied by an advertisement. And I think we want to make this pop a little bit more, advertising the virtual session. The second page was an About West Perth page that sort of talked about why this is a great community to live. It included links to our Perth County profile and our West Perth profile, which are both a little bit out of date. and they will be updated next year, but they won't be updated in time for this because these profiles are basically the manifestation of the new census data that talks about the build of our community and our demographic and things. So they're still great documents, but they're a little out of date, but I still think we drive people to them and maybe provide the message that these profiles will be updated. As I go through this, I think I'm encouraging you all to think about the different audiences, and because I think we got to come back and revisit. Okay, is it everyone? The third page was the presentation of who the committee members were. My suggestion would be that we reduce this to a half page, so we reduce the thumbnail sizes a little bit. And I think if we're hitting everybody, I would strongly encourage that we have this page talk a little bit about your local government, and we talk about the municipal council and the economic development committee. So I would say we would use this page to cover both council and ECDev committee. So that we wouldn't really gain any real estate here. We would just kind of make it a little smaller and cover both. The fourth page had articles last year that we would replace these articles. So I'd propose that we replace these 3 articles with 2 articles at least, one on recreation programming and our sort of, strong desire to implement our recreation plan and to make ourselves a target or to support young families and to support youth and as a tool for youth retention, that we want to have good recreation facilities, and we're expanding. And then the second article we could do for this page would be talking a little bit about infrastructure renewal, where we've had to renew some of our buildings. Financially, we've been planning for this and we're now in the process of building them. And the link to the Ketterson Park Pavilion, which is another recreation asset that we're going to add that will add good recreation value for the community. That's what I would propose there. We might want to talk about the 128 bed long-term care facility that's being developed by Ritz. It might deserve an article of its own here. We could decide. Page 5 was the Heron Business Park and just the basic conversation about commercial and industrial lands. Sadly, there's not a lot of updates on this year other than there has been one more property sale and a business coming. I still think it gets a page, and I still think we need to promote it because it's a big project that's coming when we can get that neighbor to the east of us to cooperate. Page 6 was a Mitchell BIA page, and I would advocate that Mitchell BIA they've done a lot of work despite COVID, and the downtown of Mitchell is still fairly very vibrant downtown in relative terms. And we might want, if we did this to a broader audience, we might want to have the Mitchell BIA, but also mention Dublin as just to make sure that we kind of mention, or add a little piece about other retail opportunities in West Perth and mention Dublin. Page 7 was the residential development projects page, and I think this page is needed again. I think we can keep it to 1 page. We can remove developments that have been completed, and again, I expect that we'll add 3 or 4 rows to that table. We'll be able to, by January, add 3 rows to that table. And I think that's a no-brainer. Then the last 5 pages were county pages. Justin, I'll speak about them, but perhaps you want to, if there's any questions, be ready to answer them. Page 8 was a general county economic development and tourism and what they do, and who you get a hold of if you've got county economic questions and the services and things like that. I think we keep that content, but update it. And I ran out of time. I was doing this just before the meeting, so I stuck the last 4 pages on 1 page. I cheated. But actually, the format that Justin gave this to me actually worked very well. So for the pages 9 to 12, the county is anticipating replacing the articles from last year or updating them. The main content would be a BR&E results and next steps for that work that Justin's been talking about that was done, a 1-pager for that. A 2 or 2.5, 3-pager for just a review of the many projects that economic development and tourism has done the last year. And, the high level ones to just mention are the Snapshot Project, the Digital Service Squad, Discover More Adventures, Housing Forum, and so on. And then 1 page again on PC Connect and showing the routes and sort of replacing this page or doing this page again. And I would just mention that the county probably has a bit of real estate to spare here, because the last year, the last page was kind of used for a mosaic where it might have some words on it this year. So, and I think I'll stop the share at that point in time and ask if there are questions about content. And I would say my first thing is, are there suggestions about, when you think of it through the lens if we went to a broader audience, is there content I'm not thinking of or other ideas?
One thing I think should be mentioned is how to get involved in the municipal or economic development stuff, in the snark fest that sometimes occurs on Mitchell Life. There have been some positive conversations that have come out of that, with people asking, well, how do I get on an economic development committee? How do I talk to city council, all of that stuff. So a little bit of a, here's who to contact if you want to get involved or ask questions regarding involvement, would probably be a good thing to add to the page with the economic committee and the municipal people, etc.
Good, we could add that.
I would maybe give our service clubs a little plug somewhere in there, because man, they're all dying for volunteers. We know that. The Lions Club's getting older. So if there was somewhere, we must have a record of what service clubs are in Mitchell. There's basically the Lions, the Optimists. A lot of them have gone by the wayside, actually. So that's, and our zoo. I would like something to feature our zoo. Or it's not a zoo, but our park. Everybody knows what I mean. Whether it's a picture, because it's changed a lot in the last 3-4 months, that the people down there are fantastic in the summer. We have volunteers coming out of the woodwork now to do stuff. I think, and it's because it's transitioned to my park to our park. Don't put that in or I'll get killed, but
I hear you. I'd love to have other similar community initiatives happen, like a community garden, or a outside skating rink that's managed by volunteers on town property or something like that. Because to me, when you give people ownership of a space, it really helps to kind of build community spirit and stuff, especially if like the teens in the area can be involved in management and stuff. It can be really, really helpful for making them feel like they're actually part of this town.
So could we do something with our youth center that we have now?
Yep.
Just spitballing, throwing things out, because the municipality now has taken over the youth center. It's not run by the YMCA, so it's ours. So we need to take ownership of it and promote it.
We can add that to the recreation part.
Yep.
And the municipal part, I think a picture of the zoo and, the Lions. Other feedback from others about content. So got all that. I'm making notes.
Nathan, anything for St. Clement? Oh, Corley.
So I was just gonna say, with the construction projects, I think the town hall, the fire hall, like really promoting, maybe not promoting, but showing a bit more about them. I mean, whether it's floor plans or, just really highlighting some of the features there.
Okay. Thank you.
I think Jeff touched on including Dublin in as far as the main street and having businesses there. I think that's important to expand that just outside of Mitchell, being as there is others. But other than that, everything he's touched on, and in addition to what you and Christine have mentioned, it's good.
Good.
I was just gonna say, maybe you end up kind of having a list of capital projects that you mentioned that are going to come before council, you may have initial approvals of some of those capital projects. So look what's coming in 2022. We're going to resurface XYZ Street, or we're going to do some things so that people know what's happening or what's to be expected and what's to be approved. I don't know exactly how your approval processes will work in conjunction with printing, Jeff, but that only you and Doug might be able to answer that. But that's what I was thinking.
Probably
about.
know what streets getting done for the next 10 years. Mike Kramer already has it all.
It's a bit early, though. It's a bit early to.
Yeah.
And that's one we can include in the municipal tax newsletter too. So
Yeah.
Okay, we can keep that. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, so everybody's talked about it. So do we go back to doing it for everybody? Is that would we do it for what did we do 4,000?
So
I don't have.
I have a budget. I have to give you a budget note, and so you know what you're dealing with. So because we're starting to move this into the following year, we haven't spent a cent of 2021 money. So we have the $2,500 that's in our budget. We haven't spent any of it. So without increasing our budget allocation for 2021, you can have a $5,000 budget, because we're not going to pay these bills to 2021. But you do start to commit yourself to what you're going to do in the future. So you'd want to kind of ease your way into that. But for this year, we actually have a bit of bonus money because we're sliding this back to February rather than when it used to be in November. So we've kind of missed a year.
And
calendar year, that budget wise.
Come the fall of 2022, we might go back to having a business industry breakfast, and then just kind of supplement it with a newsletter somewhere. But I think we look at this as a package right now. What we're going to do. There's an election next year. There'll be a new committee the next fall. So if everybody, do you want a motion to, or do you want to still?
If everyone, if the content's good enough and you want to just trust staff, I'd say we got pretty clear marching orders. I think we can throw this thing together, and then we should move into a conversation about timing. And we're anticipating Wednesday, February the 16th as the virtual event, which would put us into the print going out about 3 to 4 weeks ahead of that. We kind of thought that was a nice pocket post Christmas and post sort of Christmas flyer fatigue. And I know I get it. I don't know about other people. And so, maybe they're just getting to the point where they want to actually start receiving stuff again because they get so overwhelmed in December. And they would have time to sort of indicate that they wanted to attend. And then Family Day is the 21st of February in 2022. So it would be the week before the Family Day weekend. It would be the Wednesday before the Family Day weekend. It would be the Wednesday night that we proposed to have the virtual session, and we would promote it in newsletter and promote it in socials. And we're proposing, and we'll have this conversation after we finalize our marching orders for this part, but we're proposing that the virtual session have an update from the county with some high level things and give people a chance to sort of talk about the content that was in the newsletter at a very high level. So people on the virtual meeting can ask questions. Same for the municipality, but we're also kind of contemplating a speaker, and a virtual speaker is very economical now. And Doug wasn't on, I was on the county, the Perth County Municipal Day session today, and there were speakers on there that we could pick. There's speakers out there. If this group wants to entertain a conversation about what kind of a speaker they'd be interested in, we could go for a 10 or 15 minute sort of talk in addition to the other updates and then the roundtable type thing. But I want to get to that in a moment. I think we come to that next. I just want to see if the chair wants to confirm if there's consensus on the marching orders for staff.
Jeff, I wouldn't be your assistant if I didn't chime in here on this. So we are still experiencing mail delay So you had said to try and get it out 3 to 4 weeks before the February 16th meeting. I think we should aim a little bit earlier than that. We're regularly getting mail that's late. So a little earlier is probably better. Just, I know last year there was some complaints that, you know, they didn't have it for very long in advance. So maybe even last year we had it out that first week of January, and maybe we kind of try and aim for
that again.
Yeah.
Well, if you go take a dozen donuts over to the post office, it works a lot better. My wife's going to have to deliver about 2,000 of these. So
Actually,
nobody
now
in
that
this
you
room,
say that-
in this conference, is going to get more grief than their
Now that you say that, I
2,000.
forgot, this is a direct.
Yeah.
so we're
This
not
is a
mailing.
direct.
Yeah,
We're
so
not
that's-
going to Oakville to go to London to come back to Kitchener. You
That's
drop
true.
these off like my flyers there, and the girls start putting them in.
That's
So
true.
you're a
Forgot
little
about that.
you're a little quicker. I won't tell her that when I go home, but so are we gonna, is the content right? We stick with the 12 pages. We got a lot of head shaking, yes. Okay, we don't have any shaking, no. So Jeff, direction. Is the 4,000, are we going to go, and we could tweak that. We should look at, I don't know if you did the north side of Moncton, because I run into this too. You'll have to sit down with the Canada Post lady, and you want to make sure you're not sending it to Atwood, because that's actually almost to Atwood is Moncton. On the top left-hand corner here, you'll be able to see pretty well exactly where you're going.
So we did have some of Moncton included.
There will be some there'll be the south side of Moncton, which is in West Perth.
We can take it as direction to see if we can get that down so that it's 4,000 altogether. Because we'll want a couple hundred to hang on to distribute. But yep, we can, it's going to be in the ballpark of 4,000.
And I don't want to step on my wife's toes, but if you need somebody to go through it with you, she does it every month.
Yeah.
Because we used to go into Atwood. We used to go up to Winthrop and Slabtown, and because we had the Walton ones. But do you want a motion for the 4,000, or are we still doing direction?
Direction, I think, is quite satisfactory.
Staff direction to do a mail out to each resident, each residential household, farm, business in West Perth. I want people to shake their head yes, because it's just direction. Four yeses for direction. You can even say yes, Paul, I'll let you. So we're gonna do the whole municipality.
Yes.
Okay, Jeff. The content, yeah, they agreed. The content, county content's a little dreary, but try to focus more your pictures on West Perth.
Good. I think that's great direction. And then with that, I can move into the next conversation, which is quickly to just ask if you had your druthers and we could find a speaker, and look, I will work on it. We don't want to spend a lot of money on a speaker, but we also, there's some good speakers out there. What kind of content would you be interested in? Would you be interested in someone that talks about youth retention? Would you be interested in someone that talks about housing affordability and changing housing market? Would you be interested? Justin, help me. Have you got some suggestions?
Yeah, I think those are both great suggestions. There's other just general folks who are rural economic development specialists who can just talk about how rural is changing, or how rural opportunities, or we could find somebody in that realm. So yeah, whatever the committee's interested in. There's, I think Jeff said virtual has opened up a whole new realm of speakers that would otherwise be either unaffordable or unavailable. And if we're looking at only 15 minutes and 15, 20 minutes or whatever the community decides, we can cast some net out there and see, put some feelers out there and try to line somebody up.
Like most people wouldn't have been on the committee when we used to have a speaker. The last few years, we've had a West Perth update by Jeff, the plowing match speaker, and high school, and like that's what we used to have, was a speaker come in, speak for 10 or 15 minutes. And then we kind of really realized, I think it was a lot to do with us, West Perth. We wanted the West Perth people. So You mentioned
So-
the guy from today.
Well, today we did Perth Municipal Day today, and there were a number of speakers that gave 10 and 15-minute talks that they were extremely effective. They were the right length of time. They were practitioners. And, one of the ones that was really impactful for me, there was one, Sammy, and I'm not suggesting this one because it's not the right audience, but Sammy Orr spoke about climate change through the lens of a grade 10 student, which was a great perspective for everyone on the call. To remember, that there's a lot of older people making decisions for next generations, that they have a voice. It was extremely impactful. And there was a speaker that talked about the Ingersoll Youth Center, effectively a youth center a lot like ours, and why it's an important youth attractant for their community, and just what its goals and objectives are. It was very impactful. I think it was very enlightening to hear what other communities are doing. We had a speaker from Chatham-Kent who talked about the changing demographic in their community and their need to really readjust their sites and focus hard on thinking about everything through the lens of retaining youth and attracting youth. And so that's just examples of speaker. If you had a topic you were interested in us pursuing, we could chase down someone good, or see if we could chase down someone.
I think the youth retention would be a really good thing, especially if you can find someone who actually still fits within the youth demographic. So it's not an old guy showing up to tell you how to keep your youth, but it's actually,
A young person that stayed, because we're going to need a lot of workers at our Ritz Villa. Because don't get me wrong, I'm getting to the age where we're all getting older. And the Avco building is the first step, and then to Ritz. They have the sign. You look around West Perth, how many signs are out there looking for workers? 50.
I think one of the things, youth retention, affordable housing, all of those things that we always talk about here, but I don't think the average person from West Perth necessarily connects the dots about what those things mean to future generations here. Jeff hit on it exactly. What do we do? We've talked about it before. If you can't have affordable housing, you can't keep your young people here, they leave. And then, how many people understand that? To, Christina's point about small, tiny houses, people would say, I don't want that in my own backyard. But if you start to connect the dots about some of these things that people don't think about until they're made aware of, I think a speaker that can talk about some of those key items would be great.
Yeah, especially if you were able to tie it into how the demographic of small towns is changing dramatically in a way due to COVID and the availability of remote work. We've had a lot of people moving from the cities, and I think there's still this idea of this divide between town and country. And I think that divide and that mindset kind of needs to go by the wayside a bit. And so maybe a general community building during and why those things that you said, Paul, are important, and what the repercussions are of saying no apartments, no this, no that, would all be, really, really helpful for just the general snark people in West Perth, along with everyone else.
The people who wonder why Tim Hortons closed at night because they can't get enough employees to work, right? They just can't get enough people. So if we brought McDonald's and put it next door, they wouldn't be able to get enough people to work either, because they don't pay $30 an hour. So that's our retention. It's all different people that we have to retain too.
So I think that's probably really good kind of direction as far as us doing some searching around and trying to chase. I think it's it's an open enough kind of thing that we can try to narrow down. And I think, the key thing about this, and Justin and I can take this on, that we're really sure that the sales pitch meets the delivery. We want someone that, if we're going to give 15 minutes to this virtual session to, we want it to be good, and we want it to be applicable. And so we'll work on that. And I want to just mention that I think when we promote the virtual session, we'll really talk about it being the target audience for that virtual session is business and agriculture and industry. We're not going to say no to somebody that, signs up. But again, the virtual session is really to speak to our employers. And again, the newsletter's out there for everybody. I like this mix. I like this sort of evolution of, we want to make it clear to everyone that, you know, keeping a driver on business in this community is what's going to make sure we don't turn into a bedroom community, frankly. We don't want to be that. We want to have as many people driving into work here as drive out of here to work. And we've certainly got that mix now, but there are adjustments we need to make to course to hold that. And so I just wouldn't want to have 500 on the call and the business people don't get a chance to. I think we want to sort of target audience the business people, but not turn anyone away for the virtual session.
So your speaker would be business person oriented.
Well, I think, you know, it would be a topic that would be interesting to the business person. And I think that discussion we just had facilitates that exact, those are all business topics.
Anything else? Jeff, you've got all your direction?
Yeah, I got lots of work, and
Probably won't be able to get home tonight.
Kristen and Justin and I are sharing this work, so perfect.
Well, 3 is we could pile more on. So are we good? We've got our stuff for our industry. We call it a business industry breakfast, but it's more of a nighttime thing.
Yeah, it'll be a business and industry agriculture meeting.
So the next meeting, January
So Kristen has developed a bit of schedule for next year. We were proposing, and I'll introduce it while Kristen shares her screen. We're proposing for next year that we have the business virtual meeting in February, and then we go back to our Wednesdays. So it would be April, June, September, and November.
So Jeff, are you wanting me to share?
Yeah, do you have those dates, Kristen? And so
Yeah.
this committee wouldn't meet again until we actually have the virtual meeting. And of course, we would be communicating with you as we develop the newsletter products and get them out, but we wouldn't actually meet again until February 16th. So those dates, I'll just review. Yeah, February 16th. April 20th, so we're missing Easter, we're missing, you know, we've been aware of the holidays on those two. June 15th, September 21st, and November 16th, which will be the last meeting of this committee before the committee changes to the new one that council appoints, because the election is October 22nd, I think, or October 20th.
Is everybody good with that? I can see everybody except Nathan. There's Nathan. Now I can see him. Yep. Everybody's good with that? Thumbs up.
And for budget, we'll put in an operating budget for this committee, and we'll increase the budget request a little bit to reflect this transition to doing a newsletter along with a virtual meeting, and realizing that we may, if we had the opportunity, we might do a breakfast. And we might do that breakfast. It's going to be a little tricky to do the breakfast around an election year. I know that we could still, if we had to do that, if the committee decided it wanted to do a breakfast, we would find the money somewhere. Even if it wasn't in the budget, we'd have to just allocate it from another budget.
Perfect. Then other business. I'll start on my top left. Paul. Nothing? Coralie? Any questions?
Nothing beyond the comments I already raised about the housing.
Housing. Nathan? Christina? Oh, I get the last speak for the meeting. There's nothing I can think of. It's raining out here. So I guess all we need is adjournment. Motion to adjourn? Christina, seconded by Paul. All in favor? Carried. We'll just wait until she tells us we're free to go.